Got a few folks still joining us, but welcome to tonight's admitted student reception for all the students who have been admitted and are choosing Wheaton College. Warm greeting if we haven't met before. My name is Jason. I am the Director of Undergraduate Admissions, and it is an absolute privilege to be with you on the call tonight. We'll have more students joining us, but there's about 100 to 120 students who have registered and said Wheaton is one of the schools I'm considering, or it's one I'm already coming to this fall. And I just want to get to know what it's like to be a student at Wheaton College. So I asked a few friends of mine, in fact, about 20 current Wheaton students who are all in their homes across the country and around the world, to share a little about their experiences. If you're a current student, you want to just like wave your hand real quick? Student leaders, the class of 21, 22, there we go. Hey, everybody. These students have kind of come from all over to say, I cannot wait to share more about my Wheaton experience with you. And so we'll get to a little bit of like a Q&A with our current students. You'll definitely want to make sure that you get your questions answered too. If you look at the bottom, you'll see that there's a chat feature. I think Rachel commented earlier on, and you'll be able to see and get all of your questions answered. A couple like logistics before we get started. First is if you would please rename yourself with your first and your last name. It's the only way we actually know who like got on this call. So if you would please rename yourself with your first and your last name, that'd be a huge, huge help to us. That way we can follow up with you. If you've got a specific question that comes in the chat, we can make sure to get your question answered if we don't get time to it in our student panel. So that would be a huge help. So again, please rename yourself if you haven't done that already. If you are having any tech issues, you can message one of two people. Anyone will have from the admissions team will actually have in their name Jason from admissions, like mine is. That is a way, if you have a question about tech, you can private message or send a message to Rachel from admissions, or Joanna from admissions, or Callie from admissions. A few of them are grateful to help. Jared Omeyer asked, how do you change your name? You're already set, my friend. But you, if you go over to your screen, the triple dots, and then the little ellipse, thank you, Callie, that's the actual name of it. And then make sure to rename yourself. Finally, if you're not muted, I would request that you would mute yourself for at least part of the call. We'll have a chance maybe to get to know you a little bit later on, but with 140 folks on the call, it's going to be a real challenge, and your dog's going to bark. So we're just going to get connected with you at that point. Finally, I did want to let you all know this. We are recording this. We had a bunch of students say, like, I'd love to come, but I can't make it tonight. So if you don't want to have your video recorded, just turn off your video now. You can totally hear everything, but wanted to make you very aware that we are recording the session before we kind of get through the night. All right, two last pieces of logistics. This is not the end of the conversation. There's two ways you can still keep connected with us at Wheaton or with one another. One is a completely unsanctioned, I have nothing to do with it. I think there's some random group me out there or some WhatsApp group that was started by some students who are saying that Wheaton's going to be their home this next year. And so if you're on that and you want to share the link to that, feel free to use the group chat and send that out to everybody. I literally have no idea what it is, but I've heard it's lit. That is the first one. Second, if you're not into that and you're looking to just connect with other current students or prospective students on Facebook, we have a class of 2024 Facebook page. We'll share a link to that in the group chat too. So if you are looking to potentially find a future roommate or learn more about other students who are from around the world and across the country who are planning on Wheaton for their upcoming enrollment, definitely a place to check it out. Kristen landed it. There's the GroupMe link right there. And you can check that out in your free time and get to know some other students and talk offline this chat. All right. We're going to start with some get to know you opportunities, and that means everybody's favorite polls. So 4 questions to help us all get a chance to get to know each other. They'll start off easy. I think they're going to get a little hard though. So just bear with it. Here's the first poll. Let me see a couple thumbs up if you see it. Just where are you from? Boom. Lots of responses coming in. Almost 100% responses. 15 seconds, we're there. Incredible. Yep. As someone who looks at the data all the time of like, wow, these students are amazing with this class is, I'm going to end the poll right now. Can you all see the, I'm going to share the results. Boom. This is where we're all from. 23% from Illinois, 77% not. And I got to tell you, that's a pretty normal class at Wheaton. This whole group, we usually have about 20 to 25% students come from the state of Illinois. It's my home state. Do love it. Go Illinoisans. We're a little weird, but we've got the best pizza in the world. And then most of our other students are actually from out of state, whether from across the country, or even about 15% of our students who are from out of the country. All right, that is the first question. Question number 2. Before we were all in quarantine schooling, what type of school were you in? Oh man, it's neck and neck right now. I mean, I know we had a good sample size, but this is like actually right on the money for our normal class. So this is great. All right, almost everyone's voted now. All right, here's the results. Public school just ekes out the plurality. Not a majority of our students, but a plurality. 42% are public school educated. That's what I was when I went before attending Wheaton College. But then a large number of students are private school. It is pretty normal for about 10 to 15% of our students to be home educated during high school. And then of course you have students from outside the country, parochial schools, other places like that, charter schools. But it's so good to have different examples. All right, these are easy. It's gonna get a little harder now. My favorite combo is one of the following: socks with jocks, socks with stocks, socks with Crocs, or your fashion sense is utterly offended by this question. I gotta tell you, I had no idea what the responses would be to this question, but I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot, that's true. And I would definitely say current students, you gotta weigh in on this too. They got the prospective students and admitted students have to know what they're getting themselves into. So, all right. Last couple responses coming in, ending the polling in 3, 2, 1. I like this response. I feel like this is good news and says a lot about the future of the church, the future of humanity, knowing that at least 41% of our students are offended by this question. Thank you. I had kind of wondered what the responses would be, but I feel really, really good about this. All right, last question. And this is gonna, I think, do a little soul searching. You had to choose one genre of music from this list to listen to the rest of your life. It would be one of the following. One of these is making, oh, no, never mind. I gotta be honest, this is a question I couldn't answer. Couldn't answer this one. So if there's some of you struggling, I get it. All right, we'll end it in about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All the bops just eked it out. Here's what is surprising to me, is that Disney soundtracks beat out country. That is a little interesting to me. Wasn't sure where things were gonna fall, but that one probably had me a little surprised. And then anything from before 1990, maybe slightly overweighted by some of my staff who were on the call. So I can't guarantee that, but I'm seeing some people mad at me for saying that, but that's okay. All right. Well, it is good to get to know that there's hope for humanity, that many of you are coming from across the country, and all of you have very diverse experiences that you want to share with one another and with what's potentially possible at Wheaton College. And obviously, we want to get to know you even beyond that too. I want to see you come and join Wheaton College and have you contribute more than just your fashion style and more than just your interest in music to the thriving community that is Wheaton College. We're going to get started with our Q&A panel in just a second here. Some of our current students, especially our panelists. We have about like 15 current students who are on the call. We may call on some of them if their experiences at Wheaton or where they're from may be a really good way to address the questions that you've got. But there's like about 5 of them who have said, yeah, I definitely want to share my full experience at Wheaton. So we'll call on them in a second. Please start bringing your questions into the chat. Oh man, it's blowing up. But the questions would be helpful so we can get that started for sure. Finally, if we don't get to your question, we apologize for that, but we will follow up. Usually it takes us about like 3 or 4 days to get every question answered in the chat. And we'll send the questions out that we answer by email. So you'll definitely get that later on. Finally, last couple plugs. If you are looking for next steps about when you've been admitted to follow at Wheaton College, you can do so at wheaton.edu/admitted or at wheaton.edu/checklist. Either of those are great places where we'll invite you to confirm your enrollment, which you have until June 1st to do, but hey, if you know already, might as well do so now. And you can also learn about programs like Passage, our pre-orientation program that we're still hoping to do, assuming we have an on-time and safe campus enrollment this fall, and many other pieces too. But that's all there. You can learn more about those online. Let's get started with some questions. I'd love to see some questions start coming into the chat right now, but can I have my 5 panelists start actually unmuting themselves now and then doing a brief little intro. Your name, where you call home, either right now or where you came to prior to coming to Wheaton College. If you've landed on a major or if you're still exploring, talk about that a little bit. And how did you find out about Wheaton to begin with? So I'll turn it up to our panelists. Who wants to start?
I can. Can you hear me? Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Ada Yuan. I am from Shanghai, China, and that's the place I call home. I'm currently a sophomore here at Wheaton College, double majoring in economics and communication. And how I found out about Wheaton is I went to a Christian private high school in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And then I was looking into liberal arts Christian schools for like liberal arts Christian colleges in the nation. So Wheaton naturally came up, and I visited, and then I made the decision of coming here.
Thanks, Ada. Who'd like to go next? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm Brooklyn Williams, and I'm a freshman this past year. And I grew up most of my life in Ecuador and then just moved back to the US to go to school. I am a Spanish major, but doing the MAT program, the Master's in Teaching. And how did I hear of Wheaton? I think originally it was just online, doing research, looking up liberal arts Christian schools. And then the more I looked into it, the more connections I had, and it just kind of lined up to what I was looking for. And then I got to tour it as well, and that helped make my decision to come.
I can go next. I'm Steven. I'm a junior at Wheaton and studying physics and math. Originally, I'm from Nashua, New Hampshire. That's where I'm at right now, I guess. And as far as how I found Wheaton, my dad went there, so I knew about it growing up. And then I looked at a lot of similar Christian schools, but Wheaton just kind of stood out. I think the main 2 things were high academics and like emphasis on discipleship. So yeah, it definitely just stuck with me that way.
Like Elijah?
I'll go. I'm Elijah Owens. I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm a communication major at Wheaton. I am a freshman currently, and I found Wheaton through actually a college fair, a Christian college fair, and I found out a little bit more information and fell in love from my sophomore year. So.
And I can go ahead and wrap us up, Jason. What's good, everybody? My name is Blake. I am a sophomore. I am studying history and communications. And I found Wheaton, it's kind of a funny story. My family kind of used Wheaton as an excuse to visit Chicago. We had been wanting to visit Chicago for a while because I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, which is where I am right now. And so we went up to Chicago. My mom found out that the school that Billy Graham had gone to was like half an hour from the city. So I visited, ended up absolutely loving my visit, and eventually decided to go to Wheaton.
That's great. Thank you all. And again, thank you to you, plus like the other dozen current students who are on the call who maybe get a chance to hone in on, ask some questions. I got overwhelmed by how many questions there are, so I'm like looking and trying to group some of them. But I think Caleb's first question, which was, what type of groups or clubs can you or have you joined at Wheaton, is a great starting point. Y'all are still doing classes right now. You're doing distance learning. We've got finals coming up in, I think, 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. Good luck. Praying for you all. We really do pray for you. But obviously, schoolwork is not the only thing about a Wheaton experience. You're still involved in clubs and activities and the groups of connections that you made. So maybe we could talk a little bit about what groups or clubs you were in, and then how you've still been connecting with the Wheaton community since. Who'd like to start?
So I randomly decided to join the Wheaton Women's Lacrosse Club team. With no experience, I just wanted to go for it and to try something new, be a part of a team of some sort. And honestly, it was one of the best decisions I made. I met some really incredible people, some of my closest friends that way. And while our season got cut short, I still got a cool experience this past year. Another thing I got involved in was Young Life. I'm a Young Life leader, and that is also one of the best decisions I've made, which has been really cool too during this time. We still meet virtually through Zoom and stay connected with high schoolers, and so that's been a really cool experience as well.
Yeah, I am a part of the Koinonia community, which is a on-campus Asian/Asian American club that we have. And we do a lot of things. I think that's huge for me because I remember freshman year coming into Wheaton. That's already like they're very welcoming. So I felt immediately welcomed by like the entire campus, but also by Koinonia. And I think if you're Asian or Asian American, or even if you're not, both of those things, you're still welcome to join. But I think it's very special that Wheaton has this place for Asian/Asian American to come together, especially if you're an incoming freshman, that there's already a carved out space for you, that you're just there to be loved and to be welcomed by your peers and by your upperclassmen as well.
Thanks. Anyone else have a comment on like club activity, grew, or if has anyone had any experience of you or a friend who's actually like started a club at Wheaton? Know someone who went through that and said, yeah, I had this interest, wanted to get it going. It's a pretty easy process, but I don't know if anyone on the call has actually done that.
Yeah, I can tell a story about that, Jason. So I have a friend who is actually a rising sophomore. So he's a year younger than I am. His name is Josh, and he has had a desire to start a pep band at Wheaton, a band that will go to our sporting events and stuff like that, and just play some music, for the teams and stuff like that. And I remember when I first met him, that was like one of the first things he told me. He was like, "Hey, what's up? I'm Josh. Like, super excited to be here. I'm starting a pep band. If you're interested, like, let me know." And I thought that was so cool how just like hyped he was about that idea. And it's been really amazing to see how many steps he's been able to take to actually get that done. And his hope is to be able to establish that, before he graduates. And has been able to meet with the head of our music conservatory. Been able to meet with a lot of the athletic coaches and people like that who are all super on board for this idea, which is really cool. So yeah, that's a really cool story of somebody who just had a vision and is getting it done at Wheaton.
Totally. And Emma, I got a message from Emma Fultz, one of our current students. You said that your roommate, if I'm not mistaken, started a club?
So my roommate freshman year started a Bible memory club, which is still running at the moment, even over Zoom, and it's called Sword Swallowers. And it was really cool because as soon as I met my roommate, like the only thing she could talk about was Bible quizzing. She just was so passionate about it. And it was great because she met with some friends at Wheaton, and the three of them together just went through the process with the SAO, and within the time span of like a couple months, they had a club up and running. They had a group me, yeah, it was just really awesome to watch that like dream that she had and just that passion kind of go forth and give a place for other students to practice that as well.
Great, thanks. Speaking of some of these clubs and activities, some of you mentioned like pep band and athletic events, and athletics is a big part too. About 20 to 25% of each incoming class are actually varsity athletes participating in one of our 21 different varsity athletic programs. So athletics on a very competitive Division III NCAA national field is definitely strong. And of course, we have club sports like Brooklyn mentioned, and then intramurals too, which run 3 different terms throughout the year. We had a couple questions though come in about athletics. Let me find the questions. Let's see. Jillian Edwards asked, what are the football games and basketball games like? Caleb asked, what's the school spirit like? Do people actually show up for these events? Matt asked a similar question too. So maybe our current students could say, okay, what's one of the sporting events that you love going to in the last year or two? How well attended has it been? I'll just say right now, our football team and men's basketball team in the last year, basketball last year made it to Sweet 16. It's pretty incredible. And then basketball made it to quarterfinals, if I'm not mistaken. Can someone correct me on that? I think quarterfinals is, well, Elijah knows, yeah?
I think football made it to quarterfinals.
Yeah, that's right. Awesome. So what, from our current students on the panel or other current students, who wants to talk about like their favorite sporting event and what it's like to be part of or athletics at Wheaton College? Blake, let's hear it.
Well, yeah, so personally, I love going to the football games. Football is big down south. So having that in my blood, I love going to Wheaton football games. They're a lot of fun. The basketball games get really hyped too. We have a lot of students that show up to our basketball games, which is awesome. But actually, Jason, if you're cool with it, Micah really loves the hockey team. And I'm sure he would have some great things to say about the Wheaton hockey games, if you're cool if he says something.
All right, I think it's going to – exactly. It's going to happen. Let's hear it, Micah.
If you are looking for a place to go to watch great sports, great action, you want to lose your voice maybe, cheer for a team so hard, get so riled up, then hockey is the sport for you. And Wheaton hockey, while they may not win every game or maybe any game that they play, maybe one or two a year, those games have actually been the highlight of my Wheaton experience, one of the highlights of my Wheaton experience. So sorry for this little rant, Blake. I'm really glad that you gave me this opportunity. Wheaton hockey, incredible. Yes.
I think I have to say that was an unsolicited advertisement, and I am so glad to hear it, Micah. Actually, the hockey team at Wheaton has a long history and a huge legacy, and I actually think the most loyal fan base on campus, which is really incredible. Good. All right. Lots of other questions coming in. Just looking at a couple here. A few things about academics, specifically like double majoring. Matt Derman asked, how difficult is it to double major? I'd like to do philosophy or psychology. Others are asking how they could integrate kind of music also with their liberal arts degree. So are any of our students who are on the call thinking about doing one major plus a minor, a major and a second major, and how they're combining that within the framework of their classes?
I can answer that. It definitely depends on what majors as to like how easy or hard it is. For me, like physics and math, there's a lot of overlap in requirements. They're not easy majors, definitely, but like I've found it very doable. But I know people who have like combined two majors that are, I know a few people who've even done three, but that's crazy. But a few people who have combined like majors that are just on completely opposite sides of campus, like academic wise, and it can definitely work. And as far as music goes, like I have friends who are doing like music with elective studies and other things, and yeah, they can take classes in all sorts of different majors. You can do another minor. Yeah, it's very, very flexible.
That's great. And then I got a message from a couple people. We're going to call on Courtney because I think that's the first one. Courtney Shirley, also double majoring. Do you want to talk about what you're doing, how you're fitting that together, and which programs you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm a sophomore and I'm double majoring in economics and Bible and theology. And it really like depends on like credits you come in with it all or how you match up your gen eds, like general education requirements. So I've been able to find a lot of classes that have mixed tags for a lot of my general education requirements, allowing me to fit in these classes better. I did have some credits coming in, which just produces a little bit more leeway, but it really depends on like classes you can get into, how you can plan your schedule to maximize your availability. But yeah, definitely depending on the major. I know some of like the sciences are a bit more demanding. I know Stephen kind of matched up two of them together, which overlaps, which is nice. But if you don't have labs, it's also easier for me to take different classes at different times as well. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Courtney. There were two questions that came in. I'm just going to go back. They were actually a little while ago, but they're important. Michael asked, was the housing situation at Wheaton for the fall given the pandemic? Andrea asked, with the global COVID-19 situation, what are plans for the fall looking like? So I'll just say right now what we do know. It is our hope and prayer that, and we are actually planning for an on time and first and foremost safe fall start late August. And right now, that's what we're working towards. At the same time, I'll just let you know right now, the college is coming up with contingency plans for if that's not going to be the case. I'm not aware of what those specific ones will be. I have an understanding that definitely the college is working to be able to prepare as much information as possible for students before the June 1st deadline for a decision, so that you just have full awareness as much as you can at that time, given the dynamic situation. That said, if you do want to just kind of have an update on what admissions is saying specifically, if you go to the undergraduate admissions webpage on the wheaton.edu website, you'll see a whole page on undergraduate admissions that says COVID-19 FAQs. You can check out some pieces there. We indicate things like what's our plan, when's our deadlines, how are we treating AP credits and advanced credit by testing in that way. So there's a couple of questions that might be pretty helpful for you to check out. So you can check out some of those. Specifically to the housing situation, for now, students, we're still encouraging, since we're planning and hoping to have everyone back on campus this fall, you can still sign up for housing. And you can do that whether you've sent in your deposit and claimed your spot to come to Wheaton, or you're still admitted and deciding. If you go and have claimed your NetID account, which if you go to wheaton.edu/checklist, you can learn how to do that. But if you've claimed your NetID account and log into the Wheaton portal, you can fill out a housing survey. And that is where you can talk about your preferences, where you might like to live, how you could potentially sign up with another roommate. So that is available. And we still want to go through that process for now, because we want to make sure that, assuming the Lord willing, they'll be able to be back in the fall, we're going to have a place for you. So that's kind of the plan, and you can check that out there. One other little question, I'm just going to answer right off the bat. Andrea asked this question as well. Honestly, if there's just any info on study abroad programs, oh, Andrea, would you know that tomorrow, it's in the afternoon, and also tomorrow night, our Dean, Laura Montgomery, and or our Director of Study Abroad Programs, Deb Kim, will be presenting on GPS, our Global Programs to Study. And that'll be a great opportunity to learn all about them. But maybe to turn to our students who either has studied abroad or is planning on a potential study abroad. I know things are a little bit dynamic right now, but how have you seen either others before you do it, or something that you're hoping that could still be part of your time? And what are the options available to you at Wheaton?
One of them is Wheaton in Spain, which I was planning on doing this summer. Sounds like it'll be moved to the following summer. But we do like a lot of traveling within Spain and stay with a host family during a certain period of the time and take, I think it's up to like 8 or 12 credits of Spanish classes there. So that's one resource and one option available.
Yeah, another option that's available for y'all is a program that I was planning on doing this summer and also has been moved to the following summer. It's called Wheaton in the Holy Lands. And it's around a 2-month program where we spend, a couple of weeks in Israel, a couple of weeks in Rome, a couple of weeks in Greece, studying the New and Old Testament, walking the path of ministry that Jesus walked and stuff like that. And it's an awesome program. For me personally, when I got to college, I knew that I really wanted to do some sort of study abroad. And I was blown away at how open the world is to Wheaton students. I mean, our GPS office does an incredible job at working with students to find programs, whether that are run through Wheaton or are not run through Wheaton, that are applicable to your major and are actually beneficial for you as a student. And they also do a great job at making those programs as affordable for us as possible, which is really, really great.
Nice. There's lots of programs. And then I got a message from Krista, one of our current students. Chris, do you want to unmute yourself and talk about the study abroad experience you were able to do?
So I studied abroad in Mexico for a semester with Wheaton's Wheaton in Mexico program, and it was really great. It was definitely a time of a lot of stretching myself and learning to put myself out there, especially since it was such a new cultural context for me. But I learned so much about myself and what I'm capable of doing. Also, food is delicious. You'll get to experience so many new things wherever you choose to go. I would say it can be a super smart way of getting a lot of credits done. For example, I'm a double major in anthropology and Spanish. for both of those majors, you have to study abroad. And I got 18 credits worth of Spanish done in a semester, and I was able to finish up my Spanish major without an issue, without conflicting or having a conflicting schedule with my anthropology courses. So definitely be mindful of how your courses line up. But even if your major doesn't typically have a study abroad program, I know people who have, even though they majored in, say, economics or math, and they loved it and would do it over again in a heartbeat. So if you have any questions about study abroad, feel free to message me.
Thanks, Krista. There were a couple questions that are coming through right now and even beforehand that I had noted, but since it's coming through again, I want to say it. We have a few transfer students on the call too, which is something that I think most of us know, is that every fall and every spring we bring first-year students, those either who are coming directly from high school, maybe did a gap year or some other experience, and also transfer students who come to Wheaton College. Usually that means about like anywhere between 70 to 100 transfer students who are coming to Wheaton College each year. I think they're making a connection right now in the chat, which is great, at least a couple who are there. There are activities and even group opportunities to connect for our transfer students. I mentioned the class of 2024 Facebook group for our first year students, but actually you can also connect with the other previous groups depending on when your graduation year is by just changing the year. Class of 2023, the Facebook group /2022. So if you have questions about that, feel free to email admissions@wheaton.edu if you have not gotten connected with your correct class, and we can make sure to get you connected there. Hannah asked a great question. Hannah asked, is the counseling center readily available to students? Do students find it helpful? I'm so glad you asked, Hannah. There are so many opportunities for students to get the care and support they need at Wheaton College. I don't know, and of course, you know, for folks who are in counseling, you can volunteer that or not, so don't feel pressure on for our current panelists to share about that. But do any of our current students, either on the panel or in our group, have they either participated in experience with the counseling center, or have they found that they've also been able to get help and support through residence life, the chaplain's office, or other places of care? All right, go ahead, Elijah, and then I think that's Elijah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have been to the counseling center. It is super readily available for all students. You literally just walk in and say, hello, I would like to have an intake appointment. They have you fill out a little bit of paperwork, and then after that, they'll schedule an appointment for you. And that's that. It's really straightforward, super helpful. Yeah. Also, there's just a lot of students on campus who take advantage of the counseling center, and I would encourage students to not feel scared to do that.
Great. And there are a few other actually students volunteer. I'll call on just one of them. Emma, I think if you wouldn't mind sharing just your experience too. Thank you, Elijah. Glad to hear that is so easy and streamlined. I'll say I actually just met with the interim dean of our wellness at Wheaton, who's overseeing our counseling center, Dr. Toussaint. And he actually has said we're one of the few institutions in the nation that actually don't have students on a waiting list. We actually make sure that we can resource appropriately to give students the care that they need. Emma, did you want to share anything more? Not to put you on the spot, but.
Sure. So yeah, I have used the more intake and do a regular kind of counseling thing, but I haven't done that too regularly. So a different thing I want to talk about is the emergency counseling hours. So any day you can go into the counseling center and say, hey, I need to be seen by somebody today. And maybe they'll have you wait like an hour, but they will get you in that day if you need it. And so I was like in a car accident and was just like experiencing just so much like trauma and stress after that. And just being able to sit down with one of their professional counselors who was available like 30 minutes after I walked in, and just like talking through that and doing some different calming strategies and stuff like that was a really big blessing to me at the time. And so I'm really glad that that's a resource that we have available.
Right. Thank you for sharing honestly and openly. And that way all of our admitted students and even current students just know about the resources that are available here. Andrea asks, is there a way to get involved in dance at Wheaton? There's actually a few different ways. Are any of our current students involved either in the confessions group that is met or some of the more like kind of like fun off-campus dance opportunities that have happened? I want to share from our panel or from the group.
I can share about that, Jason. Yeah, so I did dance all of high school, and then coming to Wheaton didn't continue necessarily, but I did get to be a part of the Confessions program. So what that is it's every spring, our dance ministry, which is called Zoe's Feet, that dancers from high schools can get involved in. So if you did that and you want to continue in college, you can get involved in that. But they put on a show every year that any Wheaton student can be a part of. So there's anywhere from like 100 to 150 regular Wheaton students who perform in this show. And it is a blast, from doing hip hop dances to contemporary ballet, jazz. Really, they have all styles. And it's a wonderful opportunity to meet people, to learn dance for the first time, or to even just continue something that you might have enjoyed in high school. So that is a really great opportunity, and something that Wheaton, I think, celebrates a lot through dance. We have several different dance events on campus throughout the year, and then also we have like a swing dancing club. We'll have salsa nights with our Unidad Latino club and different things like that.
Blake started answering the next question I wanted to say. Thank you, Julia. We had a few questions like come in like real hot, asking about career services opportunities from our Center for Vocation and Career, internships opportunities that are available for Wheaton students. Blake kind of mentioned in the chat that our Center for Vocation and Career is available for students to help find resources and internships across across different majors and interests. Who has actually participated in some of the really strong programming the Center for Vocation and Career offers, and wants to talk about that? Especially, would love to hear if either a sophomore or junior has participated in the Canvas series. Any of our panelists talk about that?
Yeah, but I want to talk about the other thing that CVC put on. It's called Taco Tuesdays. So it's basically they set up a room within Wheaton campus, and then you go, and then they provide you, of course, taco for the free dinner. And what they do is they bring in Wheaton alumni, and then each week they have a designated topic. So I'm interested in marketing and business. So I went, and then they talked about marketing, and they brought out Wheaton alum, which actually was online because it's virtual. But they talked about, they were like from 4 different career, like different paths. Some are working in the publishing company, or more tech, or more fashion or music. So it's a variety of alumni working in different fields within the same topic. So it was really cool to see their journey from Wheaton transitioning to the real world, and how they use the Wheaton resources into helping them build their careers, or just really flourish in their jobs as well. So it's very cool connecting with alumni. And then they're also very open to talking with you if you reach out to them through LinkedIn or just emailing them. They're very happy to help you.
Thanks, Ada. Anyone else have another thing either from Taco Tuesdays or another piece from the CVC they've been able to enjoy?
Yeah, I got something, Jason. So for me, coming into college, thinking ahead of like what I was going to do after I graduated, careers and stuff like that, that stuff all like wasn't really a priority for me. And so I was just kind of like, I'll like figure all of that out when I get there. But something that really attracted me about the CVC is that they always have really good food at their events. Their office always has free food, and their events all have like really, really good food. And so that was actually what kind of initially got me to go to their events, and their information is super helpful. They do a great job at like making sure that the transition between, college and our job is as like less stressful as possible, I guess is a way to say that. But they're an awesome office. Definitely take advantage of them because they have a lot of free food for Wheaton students.
Perfect. 2 things just so everybody know, just a couple stats to make you realize it's not just food, but also is going to get you what you're looking for too. First is that more than 80%, it's usually between 85 and 90% of our students do at least one internship before graduation. It's normal. And in fact, usually assumed for most students to try and find some opportunity where they can put their education in the classroom into practice in a vocational setting, whether that's whatever they're interested in, or helping to evaluate to try and do something that maybe they aren't going to do with the rest of their lives or careers. The other thing you should know is that our landed rate is 99%. What that means is that within 6 months of graduation, which if you do take loans, though not everybody does, but if you do, that's when loans start becoming due. 99% of our students are either in graduate school, landed in their next vocational step, an internship that's maybe paid, or a grad school, or of course working full-time employment. And to be able to have that, that's like a gold standard between those two numbers. You can rest assured that coming to Wheaton, you're going to be set up for those things. That's definitely the case. Another thing that Wheaton is about as a distinctively Christian institution is kind of like, what does it look like to kind of form faith? Anna asked this question, what is chapel like at Wheaton? Ruth asked this question, I think it's a good one. How has your faith grown or shifted while you've been attending at Wheaton? And then Josh Pack asked, what is the worship program like? Maybe let's hear a little bit about chapel, if that's okay, from some of our current panelists. What is it? How often do we have it? What's it usually look like? And then maybe I'd love to hear from one or two people how your faith has either grown, shifted, changed while you've been at Wheaton.
I can talk a little bit about just like basic overview of chapel. We have it 3 times a week normally. Right now it's a little different, but it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings, and typically it's 40 minutes long, and they'll have some sort of music, some sort of there's always a scripture passage, and then usually a speaker that sometimes they'll bring in from on campus, like one of the professors. Our chaplain Blackman, or our president, Dr. Riken, will speak. And sometimes they'll bring in people from just all over the world, some pretty big names sometimes. It's pretty cool. So there's a lot of variety. But like I would say like the scripture and the prayer are like the most consistent aspects of it. And I've really loved it. It's been a very just like awesome part of the rhythm of being at Wheaton.
Yeah, totally. It is an interesting thing that setting aside 45 minutes 3 times a week to worship Jesus Christ in the middle of an academic day and say, we're going to actually break from what that norm is and say, this is what we're going to do all together. Meg asks, yes, chapel in the same space. Typically, it's an Edmund chapel, which seats our entire undergraduate student body. So everyone gathers together to be able to worship there together. And Stephen's absolutely right. We've got big names, faculty, our president, our chaplain, occasionally student groups who get to speak. If you ever want to check them out, if you go to wheaton.edu/chapel, you can see a whole playlist of people who have come. And has anyone been on or have a roommate or friend who's in one of our chapel bands and can talk about like the different worship styles and experiences that we make sure are a part of chapel at Wheaton? Anybody? Cole, is that you with a hand?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't message you in time. Hello, my name is Cole. I'm a sophomore here at Wheaton, and my roommate Will was on chapel band last year. He played the bass guitar. He had a great time. He was really excited, and next year he's looking forward to becoming a chapel leader, hopefully. So each chapel we have a variety of different, and no chapel is the same musically. And so there we have 3 different chapel bands. They will perform, kind of alternate throughout the year. And then I think we had a piccolo come in. Sometimes we'll sing hymns. Sometimes it'll be, a piano, or a wide range of musical talents are showcased during chapel.
Thanks. And then the other question that I think it was Ruth, if I'm not mistaken, I kind of lost my note here, but I believe Ruth asked, how has your faith changed or shifted while attending Wheaton College? Recognize that can be a variety of different pieces, but do any of our panelists want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that, Jason. Something, I guess an aspect of my walk with Jesus that has really grown since I've come to Wheaton is my prayer life. As soon as I got to Wheaton, it was obvious what a great emphasis that the institution and the student body and our teachers put on prayer. And I think there's actually a question in the chat. Somebody asked if there's any prayer rooms on campus. There's tons. They're all over the place. And actually, one of my favorite spots on campus is in our center. There's this place called Gold Star Chapel, which is a room that's dedicated to prayer for the student body. It's a place where we as students can go and we can write down prayer requests that we have on pieces of paper. And I love it because you walk in the room and immediately you see that there's a cross that's hanging on the wall. And so you can go and write down a prayer request and like physically lay that prayer down at the foot of the cross. And then tons of other students will come and pray for those cards that people have like written and stuff like that. And so that place is big for me. It means a lot to me. And I really think that it stands as a testament to the value that Wheaton students, Wheaton professors, the institution as a whole really places upon prayer.
I'm hearing a lot of gold star amens in the chat. Matt says gold star is the spot 100%. It is actually a really special place, and especially because it's right off the living room of campus. Our student center, Lower Beamer, is where students spend time, and then to be there and say, hey, I've got 5 minutes before class, or about 30 minutes before my next appointment, and this is where I want to spend time. I think that makes a ton of sense. We've got a little bit more time for some questions. We're already going a little bit over. Thank you all for sticking around with us. There were a couple questions I thought that could be helpful. Joshua asked this question: if you could go back in the past, would you still choose Wheaton or a different school? He gave an example. I'm not going to give a name. I know everyone's looking at different schools, but when you kind of like go back in the past, would you say, hey, you know what? There could have been a better opportunity. I wish I'd done that instead. Or would you say, no, Wheaton actually is the place I'd come to again in a heartbeat? And be honest. You know?
I would come back 100%.
Same.
100% for me too.
Cool. I don't know. Great. And then there's one. Let me find the last question I wanted to. Oh, before I get to our last question, please, if you have other questions that haven't come up, please put them in the chat. We can actually save the entire chat, figure out who's getting those questions, and make sure to get it back to you. So please don't feel like you can't get your question answered. We do want to answer every single question that you have so you can feel confident knowing if Wheaton's going to be the place for you. And it was this. Find the exact wording because I loved it so much. Amber asked this question: what advice would you give to undecided students? What help would you had helping finding out what your calling is? Our current students they at least are a few years ahead of our admitted students who are on the call. So given that kind of like couple additional years experience, how would you answer that? What advice would you give to students who haven't decided about where to attend and to identify where the right place the Lord's calling them?
Pray about it. Honestly, I know that can be said a lot and it can kind of sound cliche, but honestly, prayer can be very powerful, and it really can show you where God is trying to lead you in this season.
And also, I just want to say, like, college is a place for you to grow. However, it's not the only place you can grow. And now Wheaton College might be great for you, but it might not be great for you. And I think it really is what you make the best out of. And I think what you make out of a college experience is what you will get at the end. So I think, yeah, of course, pray, and also just, have faith in wherever God leads you to is a place where you're supposed to be. And I think instead of like stressing out about which one to go, it's more about, okay, now I'm here. How can I make this the best 4 years that I've got? Yeah.
I think some advice that I would love to give you all is, like, there's no need to worry. It's crazy to me, but the Bible actually says 365 times, "Do not be afraid," and I think that's because God wants us to hear that every single day. But that's especially true during this season of life that y'all are in. There's so many changes going on in the world right now, and you're like taking some really big steps. Next year you're going to be in a brand new place with brand new people. But I want to encourage you to, just don't worry, because there's no need for it. It's only going to rob the joy that you can find at the place that you're planted. And 2, jump in, y'all. Like, once you know for a fact that you're headed where the Lord wants you to go, like, give it your all. Jump in. Go and, like, have a blast and experience what the Lord has in store for y'all. Because college, like, those 4 years are some of the best years of your life. It's a blast. And we're really excited that y'all are about to be joining our family.
Great. Thank you. Thank you to our current student panelists. We do need to wrap up a little bit here. We've got people all in different time zones, and so I want to be mindful of the time that it gets and get these questions answered. Keep the questions coming in the chat. We'll leave it open for a couple minutes more. And I think, as Rachel pointed out in the chat, we'll actually have our current students, these students right here, answer each of these questions. If there's some admission-specific ones, of course, we'll make sure you get official answers so you know what next steps are. But we'll make sure to get answers out to all of you within the next few days, maybe a week. And we really want to make sure that you feel confident about what's possible for you at Wheaton. Hear it from me. Like Blake said, we want you to be with us because you've been admitted. You clearly are a fit. And I am so excited for the class that the Lord is shaping and bringing to Wheaton College. You can choose Wheaton if you haven't done so yet at choose.wheaton.edu. Switch your deposit between any time now and June 1st, and you'll claim your spot to make sure that Wheaton is going to be where you call home and alma mater in the next 4 years. Finally, I'm going to add to the chat here the couple different class of Facebook groups. So there's the first one for students who are in the class of 2024. Those will be students who are coming in as first years this fall. And then here is 2023 for students who maybe are going to be transferring in as a sophomore. And then I think so far we've only brought in a few junior transfers, but those are the three. You can check those out. We do check by ID numbers, so if you don't know what that is, go check out your acceptance letter. You'll have an ID on there, and we'll just make sure that you're joining the right class based on how many credits you have and how you applied. Wonderful. Finally, a last couple plugs. Facebook groups are there. Choosing Wheaton is a great opportunity to make sure that you say yes. And tomorrow we'll have our global programs and studies opportunities, both one, I believe at 1 p.m., don't quote me on the time, and definitely one in the evening around 7:30. You can still register for those and hear from our global program studies offices about the types of study abroad programs that could be part of your Wheaton experience. Awesome. God bless you all. We're praying for you every single day. And in fact, it's Tuesday. My staff gathered together at 8:30 this morning to pray specifically for you and your families as you navigate this college decision process. If we can be of any help, email us, and you can always do so at admissions@wheaton.edu. Have a fantastic night. Hopefully we'll see you at Wheaton in the near future, and God bless. Have a good night, everybody.